all. It's great to be back with you. I'm excited for my conversation today and a little nervous. I'm here with Ainslee Johnson Brown, who is known for being a brilliant policy analyst and leader and co-founder of Ohioans Against Extremism. So naturally, I'm going to be talking to her about her personal life and answering questions because, that's we have to give the people what they want.
Well, interestingly enough, no one ever asked, so I'm a little excited, a little nervous. I haven't talked to my therapist in a while, so maybe this is a supplement. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Hey, you know what? That's what I went for college for. I mean, I'm not licensed, but I'm. Yeah, it was an easy pivot, honestly, from like the micro to the macro. You're like, oh, the world is too rough to like. I could help you individually, but I'd rather like let's change all the policy. But we're in Ohio, so they're like, let's make it worse. Ainsley, before we jump into our like happy pride conversation, will you share a little bit more about your background and the work that you do and where you're coming from in this space? And
Sure, no problem. Again, Ainslee Johnson Brown, pronoun she, her. As Lauren said, one of the co-founders of Ohioans Against Extremism. Actually came into this work as a second career. I used to be a corporate finance girly, risk manager, worried about the stock options and the things like that. But I pivoted to this work after going to law school because I looked at kind of the state of, I had the moment where I looked existentially at the state of the world and what can I do? And so I knew that it wasn't even necessarily how laws were being applied. It was the laws themselves that I felt like were really stupid. I have notes on everything. And once I found out that this was an avenue to get my commentary like in the public space,
yes.
sign me up. Unfortunately, there has been much to do since we started this work. I came in actually on the Issue 1 ballot initiative.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for securing our reproductive freedom rights in Ohio. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But doing that work, you run into kind of the same group of people at the State House, and you become friends with some of them. And Maria Bruno and I, who was my co-founder, she was at Equality Ohio at the time. So we were constantly battling the anti-LGBTQ plus legislation. And then we realized that it's the same bad actors that are really kind of being menaces across issue areas. And also there were things that we wanted to say that we couldn't say under the umbrella of our organizations, just by, tax laws and things like that. But we wanted to do a better job, or more explicit job of holding our politicians accountable. And so we wanted to be able to name names. We wanted to be able to talk about the bad deeds, which wasn't really a possibility when you're doing the advocacy work because these are the same, officials that you need to go in and ask for a meeting, or you need to, appear at a round table. And so you really kind of have to pick one or the other. And it's like, well, by the time that election time comes around, there's not really a public memory of their bad deeds. So there really are no repercussions. And then we have the beautiful gift of Frank LaRose, who just who just insisted on being so awful, so consistently for so long that the seat that he ran for in the primaries, that he was expected to be, the shoo-in candidate, he came in third. And, it's like, if we could do that kind of job with more of the bad actors in the state, maybe we could get some change, because it doesn't reflect what's happening in the State House, doesn't reflect, what's happening in our communities. And I don't like that. And so it gives me, an outlet for that energy. Again, I get to have commentary on everything. And so, yeah, the 12-year-old version of me is very happy in this place, in this work.
Amazing. I love that. I'm so glad that you joined us. What you and Maria are doing for our coalition space is incredible. And you brought up Equality Ohio, who I like shout out, and also HRC, like the folks that are doing the LGBTQ specific advocacy. You and I are both members of the LGBTQ community. I'm curious how you like represent that space. I know, and I was like, yes, we are both in same-sex couples, but I've never said that introduce myself in that way, you know, the L or the gay. But and both of our organizations are super pro LGBTQ. Of course, Planned Parenthood
Yes.
is a significant provider for the LGBTQ community. We do gender affirming care. Really proud
Actually
to
received some services through Planned Parenthood now, so
me
I am
too.
a client myself.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely where I was first most comfortable, you know, the way back like in the day, but learned a lot about my own healthcare at Planned Parenthood, which has made me a strong advocate and why I stay on the team. But I do love also that I get a little bit of space that I'm not always required as an advocate to show up like for my relationship or show up for like my identity in the way
Yes.
that I know our colleagues at Equality Ohio do, or just, you know, in general. And I was curious, like in Pride Month, like how do you think about yourself and your personal relationship and doing this work? And like, do you have, you know, boundaries that you think about, or you know, feelings that you think about in both like, this time of celebration, but also of like, you know, it's rough out there, and especially in Ohio.
It is. You asked a lot, and so I'm going to try to.
I know. Too many.
No, it was fine. You sparked some thoughts, but also, but if there's anything that I don't answer, please feel free to repeat the question. I will not be offended. But it's kind of ironic that you are asking this question right now at this time in this space because we are in Pride Month. I am married to a wonderful, wonderful woman who also happens to work in comms at Planned Parenthood. And so when she asked me to participate in this conversation, I laughed. And then I said, you know what, dear? You are the only person that could get me to do this. Now, while, you know, there is a personal aspect to the work that I do, I didn't come into movement work specifically for repro or LGBTQ plus issues. I knew that I wanted to fill equity gaps wherever they existed, especially because I spent the first half of my career making equity gaps larger. And so it just so happened that at the time that I came out of law school, well, my final year in law school was the summer of Dobbs. And so I, received a lot of research requests from our Constitutional Law Center and kind of dove into reproductive, access, reproductive justice from that point. Is because it was where the fight was. Like I said, I've always kind of had this energy, and I don't like bullies. So, going from, like I said, kind of walking into the repro world, and then, like I said, being at the state house and just overlapping so much with I call us the alphabet people, right? Because I'm like, at some point, I'm going to transpose some of the letters, and I don't want to be, offensive. So I was blanketly the alphabet people, us alphabet folks, um, realizing that how much was at risk
Hmm.
for myself personally, right? Because, heaven forbid, Obergefell gets overturned in the same way that they have overturned so many other, core precedents. In the state of Ohio, immediately it goes back to, in Ohio, only recognizes marriage between a man and a woman. And
Right.
so, what does that look like? And so, even as we are going into the kind of full swing of the signature collection for the ballot initiative for marriage equality in Ohio, uh, there's a sense of urgency in it because, if the clock runs out, my wife and I turn into pumpkins.
It's funny. I was like, yes, your wife is also the brilliance behind so much of my communication. So,
She
what's
really is
funny,
the best.
she really is. She absolutely is. And what's funny is my fiance is the brilliance behind the communications at Planned Parenthood in the South Atlantic states, in the Carolinas. So that is so funny. We are policy folks with communications folks, all in movement work. Although I will say three of us work specifically for Planned Parenthood, which is fun. For me, it's important that my disclaimer is that they are fully separate organizations.
Not that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. Um,
But, I think there's a synergy between policy and cons because there's this, grand strategic thinking, and then how do we explain the whiteboard that we've created behind us
Yes.
to people that don't live in this? And so I think it's, I don't know if there's some sort of statistical study, but I could totally see where a person that is really good with expressing ideas would link up with minds like ours.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I do appreciate the like, I don't have to explain why this is important. It just is important, and we will already get into that.
Absolutely. Well, I actually started this work before my wife came into it. She was in industry and for profit. And, we talk about maintaining our stress and, maintaining our bandwidth. I would be so worked up, right? Because we're in the height of the ballot initiative campaign, and, there's wild things being said that just aren't true, especially because she wasn't in the work at the time. She absorbed the importance of it and how important it was to me and the gravity of it. But she also kind of created a space for me to put that stuff down,
Hmm.
right? And so, when she came into this work, she kind of questioned, uh, her experience, and I'm like, baby, go to the state house with me all the time. Like I'm always ranting and raving about the bills and who's introducing them. And I said it's really just formalizing what I rant about, and you don't have to listen to me. You get to talk to somebody else. It's been a journey, but I see how we got here professionally and personally, and I will say that doing this work together, especially in these moments, has made us stronger.
I have felt it's not guilt because I'm happy and like she and I put a lot of effort individually and to get to be able to be in a place where we could be in a healthy relationship together. And it just so
Mhm.
happened that we were all already together when the ballot initiative kicked off, and then 24 and everything that's happened since. So I really fall in that category of like when people are like, "How are you doing?" It's like, well, personally, I'm doing great in like a very small bubble, and so I'm also like pretty protective of that bubble, and so I'm curious,
Yes.
yeah, like it's like is your bubble going to Pride this year? How are you showing up? Like, is there any crossover for work, or like how's Pride looking for you this year?
It's funny you should ask, because my wife is very into all the Pride festivities, and so whatever I attend this year will be because she said that we're going, which is fine. But also before we got together, I didn't necessarily participate in Pride or other activities, and for any sort of shame, it just wasn't such a large part of my identity, especially as I was dating around and making mistakes and trying to figure out, who I was, let alone, who I want to be with. So it's been very interesting to enter this space with this marriage, with the delicacy of this marriage, right? Because, in all honesty, we moved our wedding up 6 months when Amy Coney Barrett got confirmed.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. And so, of course, me being the worry wart, I was the one that sounded the alarm as she was testifying. But that was a real concern. And so I think that being in this work, but also being personally vulnerable to the outcomes,
Hmm.
makes Pride and the drag brunches and all of just the different spaces that we've created. It just makes them a little different for me now in a really, really good way,
Yeah.
right? So I'm excited. I know Columbus has a huge, huge Pride
Yeah.
event. I'm normally a little leery of large groups of people when Beyonce is not involved, but again, for my wife, I'll brave it. So I'll report back and let you all know how I enjoyed myself.
Awesome. Well, I hope I see you there. We're marching in the parade. I know Planned Parenthood has a table. We're really excited about it. And I too, I think I'll kind of show up twice, like once in kind of work mode, and then once as a couple because I love a like festival. I am that person. I am the person that comes around and buys unnecessary things from the vendors. I will buy more Pride enamel pins that have like
You don't have
unnecessary.
enough. There's not enough rainbow in your life.
I bought one last year that said the Midwest made me gay, and it's my favorite. I like,
It's cute.
yeah, it's the way it's, yeah. So I totally agree. I think drag brunch. We had a drag show in to drag John Husted because he
I
definitely
was
is.
there.
Yes,
I
I
was
know.
there.
Yeah. In Columbus, and we did it in Cleveland, and they were both so wonderful, and it was great to see so many supporters come out and to be able to advocate both for Planned Parenthood and reproductive health care, but also for drag and drag performers and the art of drag and the importance of our culture and drag culture. So I think this year more than maybe last year, where for besides my pins, I mostly think I was like, it was really hot last year. I'm also like
Yeah.
that point in my life where I'm like, what's the weather going to be like? But
Listen,
yeah, I think,
you're preaching to the choir.
right, exactly. It's like, oh, it's going to be lovely. But I am excited to just be in community and to show up and be prideful and, not, no haters allowed, just excited.
Going back to the Drag Job Issue event, as much as I, engage with policymakers and legislators, I have never, on behalf of myself, called and left a voicemail. And the voicemail that I was inspired to leave in that environment was one of my authentic self. It was very colorful. I'm hoping that his aides, at least, were amused. Um, and when I hung up, I told Jay, what I had said, and then I go, it's in the air. Like I'm feeling sassy, right? Like I'm feeling like why would you want to deny us of this joy that we're experiencing right now? Like, do you see those heels? Like, are you crazy? You know?
Exactly. I love that. I left a voicemail too, which I don't always, but I was like, okay, everybody's doing it. So I love the peer support.
Oh, I like that.
It was a wonderful event. And so I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, even virtually. I know we'll see each other in person soon, but
Yeah.
I think this work is really challenging, and it is, the personal is political and the political is personal, and being able to run the marathon, as you said, like we do have to, I think each of us who have been in it for many years, finds that like balance of, I don't know, just giving yourself space to not let it take you down, because it can just burn you out. I mean, the amount of like stress and, I don't know. It's
No,
hard.
absolutely. And I don't want to give the false impression for anyone that is new out entering this work that I came in so evolved and balanced and even keel. I had to run into the brick wall of overexerting myself and, just feeling like I needed to run to every fire. And so it's really, again, the graciousness of my sweet, sweet wife
Yeah.
that created a space for me to kind of unplug. And then I'm like, this is really nice, right? So being able to, have a hard stop for things, like there's a certain point in the evening where we mutually agree to put our laptops away. And then like it's just about us.
Mhm.
And so I think that time is really important. And then when there are evenings that we have to spend for work or weekends that we have to spend for work, we are intentional about scheduling like time for us to pour into our relationship, because at the end of the day, yes, the work is extremely important, but also so is the rest of my life. And so that has been a lesson that, again, through many sessions with individual therapists, couples therapists, my wife's counsel. But it's achievable. It's achievable, and it's important to find sooner than later
I agree.
so that you can still love what you do. It's
Absolutely.
really easy to get really angry in this work.
Yes.
It's really easy. And I think that having something else, whatever that something else is important in keeping kind of that passion and that interest of staying engaged as deeply immersed as we are.
And to think about and talk about other things that I like to read. I read a lot of fiction, fantasy. My fiance reads a lot too, totally different. We do not read the same things. But I was thinking yesterday we had the laptops had been put away, but I looked at my Signal chat because I can't help myself, and I was just re-angered by House Bill 795, that like the changes that they're trying to make for folks whose family members are who are taking care of them. So like if you like a home healthcare worker, and like just the depravity of the Republicans in Ohio right now of like who they're willing to attack, and that the idea that fraud is happening from people who are trying to take care of their family members, trying to take care of children or adults with disabilities. It really broke my heart. And it was also a nice space to like, I could like be like, I need to talk about this. Like I need to like come back into workspace and be like, I hate this. And I also sent it to probably a lot of like the listeners who maybe follow me in other spaces. I was like ringing the bell. So I added it in this episode as well. Please call. We'll send a link. I can't imagine.
Sometimes it's not possible to separate the two. Like, as we're talking about the fever around, potential fraud and different areas, it's a playbook that's being run. We've seen it in other states, and it's, it is being put on us even though it doesn't fit us, right? And I say that to say, I called a friend, a dear friend that I've known since undergrad, just to check up on him, see how he's doing. He happens to have a daughter named Ainslee. And so I like to check in on her too to see, make sure she's flourishing in life. And one of the things we were talking about was, him being one of the people that, has been charged in this Medicaid thing. And he explained to me, how it got to that place. And I'm thinking, if this is the strongest example of this fraudulent activity, which it isn't even, but I'll let that be litigated by the courts. But if this is the strongest example of what you've got, and everything that this man has lost as a result of the press, from you Google his name and it's the top 8 Google searches, right? And so like he's lost his job and all these things have real implications, and it's not just for clicks and engagement and potentially votes. There are real people, there are real casualties along the way. If you're not careful, it will be you. And I know that that's a thing that we, continue to say, every time something bad happens, but that's literally the truth.
Yeah, it is. I want to like circle back. Like, I love lifting up and appreciating the amount of intentionality that like both of our separate like relationships put into our lives, and definitely recommend for all our listeners. But like the necessity of that, and the fact that like that's also under attack at the state and federal level. The idea that one Supreme Court hearing, and we work also in repro at the consequences that these Supreme Court justices can have. And I'm engaged, so we're planning our marriage, and we honestly we're taking our, I don't know how much it is now, but like $175 to a blue state for our marriage license. Like that's part of it, which that has consequences too, because it means we're not going to do all the things in Ohio. But
Ohio will celebrate you.
It's not.
Don't you worry.
Yeah. This was really wonderful. Thank you for spending some time with me, Ainslee. Is there any last remarks you want to share?
Fund Planned Parenthood. I go to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is for the people. Legislators leave Planned Parenthood alone, unless you're going to give Planned Parenthood more money.
Oh, yay! Absolutely.
That's all.
Thank you so much, Ainslee. Definitely everybody check out Ohioans Against Extremism and all of our partners, and have a happy Pride.
That's a wrap, babe. And remember, autonomy needs all of us to rise. Like, subscribe, and share this with the group chat. Support the work by donating to Planned Parenthood Advocates of Ohio at ppao.org and text CARE to 22422 to protect Medicaid and Planned Parenthood. See y'all later.